I think we've got some people in the audience. I think we've got those who will be joining us today. Welcome to another Midweek with Max. It's the middle of the week here with Max. Midweek with Max today. We are joined with Max, Matt Lamb. We have the engineering team coming to join us. Rick is out sick. We wish him well. We want him to get plenty of rest here. We don't want him to destroy his voice. We know that the man's, of his many talents, his voice is a gift from God, and we don't want him to waste it. So he's got me filling in. I hope you guys don't hate me too much. Jokes aside, though, it's amazing to see everyone coming here and supporting Hemi. We've had an amazing TGE. We're looking forward to expanding the platform as we continue to engineer it out and get ready for the next phases. I will be your host today. We have a ton of questions from the audience. Max, how are you doing this morning?
Doing good. I think the team finally got some sleep post TGE, so feeling good and on to the next stuff. So I guess I'll just take this to give sort of a broad update, and then we'll also get into the engineering updates and then get into questions. Probably
That
some
sounds like
overlap
a
there,
plan.
but let's knock some stuff out. So Spectra points, those we've done the final recalculation. I have John Greenwood just double checking that all the math looks good, and so we will be doing. We should be getting those up in the next day or two. There's one minor technical limitation, which is addresses that already received some points, but not the full points, because we are now counting the second, not season, but the second version of the Spectra points for the October pool. Those have been added to the calculation, so some addresses that did get included before are now getting more points because of those, considering those new October positions. And so there's a limitation with the claim checker for only being able to claim for one address in one claim group. So we are going to work on a solution for that. So everybody who didn't get any tokens, you will be added to a new claim group, and you'll be able to claim through the existing claim UI. And then we'll announce what we're going to do for people who do have already a claim in the claim group and need to have a second one created just because of that UI limitation. So stay tuned for that. But if you didn't get any tokens at all, and you should have gotten Spectra tokens, those should be in the claim checker by end of day today. Also for pop points, what we're going to do is deploy a smart contract that lets you trade in your VE Hemi position for the 50% locked mainnet pop points tokens and get back liquid tokens if you want. So you're free to keep the locked position if you want to. But if you do want to trade it in to get 100% of your mainnet pop points to token conversion at the time of the claim checker, you'll be able to go to that smart contract and do it. So we'll be announcing details for that soon. Probably not going to stand up an actual good looking, nice, beautiful UI for that, but we'll have something simple that lets people trade in those VE Hemi positions specifically for pop points that were distributed for liquid tokens. And also beyond that, let's see, those are the two main ones. We also had some Dodo points for, I think, 5 users that didn't get in correctly, so they'll be included in the Spectra rework. And also for some of the creatives whose addresses didn't get credited in the initial claim group, either because we didn't get their addresses in time or they weren't included before the final export was made. We have been sending out the liquid positions of all the liquid tokens for all of their positions and working with them to get the locked position. So if you're in that group, you should have heard from us either in a direct thread or in one of the chats that we have together with other moderators. So if you haven't seen that, please take a look and respond with what you want your lockup position to be, and we'll get that done manually. And let's see, beyond that, a lot of stuff moving behind the scenes. So on the engineering side, continuing to do a lot of work towards network ZK provability, which of course feeds into hBitVM. I've also been doing some general infrastructure improvements, putting together some more formal plans for sort of V2 of our infrastructure upgrades now that we're post TGE. And also working on the updated pop points algorithm, which is going to go live once we get out of this sort of post TGE code freeze, which should be relatively soon, probably end of this week, early next week, depending on some external factors. And let's see, I think that's pretty much all the major updates. Also, and I do believe this is a question in the list, but for passport holders, Impossible Finance should have issued the refunds. If they have not, please get in touch with them. And also, everybody who had passports should have received points in the mainnet season, which converted to tokens in the claim process. If you have not, also please reach out with a ticket. But I'm looking at the spreadsheet. It looks like there's something like 122 node sale participants who were credited with points. So if you did participate in any of the node sales and didn't get points, please reach out, but those should have been correctly credited. With that, I'll turn it back to Jeremy.
Well, we have a ton of questions from you guys, as always, and that's not a big surprise. But the burning question on the top of everyone's head is, what is the next step for Hemi?
A lot of things from a tech perspective. The next big milestone is hBitVM. So getting the Bitcoin tunnel system updated with uh, our modified adapted BitVM system that inherits security both from Ethereum and Bitcoin. Beyond that, shorter term items, obviously the new pop payouts algorithm we've been talking about, getting that actually deployed live on mainnet. Starting to work on the governance program, so getting governance set up for VE Hemi positions and starting to go through the motions of doing some initial governance votes and also putting together a governance form. Beyond that, also the yield slash staking incentives for VE Hemi positions. We're working on finalizing the economics around those. So we should have those to announce before the end of next week, if not sooner.
Okay.
And at least for the first year of incentives. So maybe first year is announced first and then additional incentives announced later, but we should have details on that coming relatively soon.
And you mentioned the pop payout algorithm being implemented. Do you have an ETA on that, or is that also next week?
Yeah, probably before the end of next week. Because right now we're in a post TGE code freeze, just making sure everything stays 100% stable as all the dust settles post TGE. So that code freeze will probably end sometime next week, at which point we'll deploy the updated pop points or pop payout algorithm that switches the pop points mechanic for straight liquid Hemi payouts. And then we'll also do the final conversion of pop points earned since the claim distribution group until the new payout algorithm is announced. And again, we'll give people at least 2-3 days notice on that with the updated economics so they can review that and understand it prior to that new payout algorithm going live.
All right. When will it be possible to use Hemi token as gas?
That should be coming a little bit later in the year, probably October, November timeframe.
CX Alert noticed that the Hemi token is on Gate.io and BitGet, but why now open trading?
Not sure on that side. Again, as a general policy, we don't talk about any centralized exchange listings before they happen. So not sure why they're popping up or where that data is coming from, but nothing to share. But as soon as we have something to share with any exchange, we'll definitely share that with you guys.
What is Hemi Network V2? What changes were made? And what do pop miners need to do to make sure they're updated?
So a lot of things got into Hemi Network V2, and actually we have some other team members here on the call who worked on big chunks of it if they want to chime in on any of this. High level, it was a major overhaul or refactoring of a lot of the daemons. So it makes it easier to run different node configurations. We also have a lot of updates to TBC and making TBC run as more of an independent Bitcoin node and source of Bitcoin data for the pop miner. There's been some pop miner just overall code quality improvement, removing technical debt, but also some new features added to that, and also making it easier to expand it and customize it for those of you who are doing that. But I'd say for most people, probably the big change would be either the updated pop miner code, or if you're running nodes, the new easier system for running a quote unquote Hemi full node, whether that be just the minimal stack that we have as one of the Docker files or one of the larger stacks that also runs some of the Bitcoin components that surround pop miner against it. All of that's been greatly simplified. And so once we move from the release candidate to the full release of Hemi Network V2, we'll be updating all the local node runner instructions with the updated information about running it with the new stack setup. So it should be a lot simpler and also more efficient. There is an upgrade to the TBC database, and that is the TBC that's embedded inside of opgef. And so when you do a node upgrade to the opgef and optimism releases based on the V2 Hemi network update, You'll have to wait some time for TVC to do a database upgrade as well. So we'll provide instructions and information and time estimates around that as well with the updated instructions. So I don't know, Marco, Joshua, if anyone else wants to jump in with other interesting things about the V2 release. But I think that
Sure. So I
covers it
think
at a high
actually,
level.
yeah, no, I think actually at a slightly lower level, but is that it was made a lot simpler. So we got rid of a lot of stuff that we had built, thinking we needed it, but once the real product actually came out, I thought we were able to trim down a bunch of code, simplifying a lot of things. The big message is it removed a lot of code that was actually just not great. But that happened because of when you build a big product like Hemi, um, things change around you, and we were racing towards having a done product, and then once that was done, okay, now let's go clean it up. So a lot was removed. So I think that's the big main message, and it should actually be simpler for folks now to run it versus how it was. It was relatively complex to get the Hemi daemons to all work together, and now it's a little bit simpler. Still a lot of op BS that Clayton can talk to, but it's simpler to use.
All right.
Also, I have one little bit I'll add that I don't think Max mentioned. We are also in the process of moving the what used to be called local node. So the Docker stuff for running a Hemi node yourself, besides the other improvements Max mentioned, we're moving that to its own repository. So if you want to run a node, you don't have to clone or download all of the Go code and everything else. There's one dedicated repo with just the Docker crap that you're going to use to run the Docker containers and nothing else. So easier to look at, easier to understand, hopefully, easier to manage for both us and you. And yeah.
Most excellent. Now, we already covered passport holder refund updates, but a point of clarity, do passport holders get Hemi tokens? Many have checked the claim site and still see the not eligible message.
So if you bought a passport node either through the direct purchase that we had for people who were testnet participants and where you got bonus discounts for Demos verification, holding some of the NFTs, if you bought through that process or through Impossible Finance's IDIA staking system, you should have been credited with mainnet points that were calculated as the equivalent of the node purchase price, counted as TVL at a 6x multiplier for 200 days in mainnet. I'm looking at the spreadsheet now. Like I mentioned earlier, there's about 120 addresses that got credited with mainnet points for those. If you did purchase a node and you're not part of a small select group who are getting treated differently through a SAFT system, and you did not get mainnet points, please reach out and we'll take a look at it. But everyone should have gotten mainnet points credited, and you should have gotten any tokens during the claim process the Friday of 2 weeks ago. So everybody should have gotten tokens correctly credited, but if you didn't, please reach out and we'll look into it.
Okay. Moving on to rewards. Will there be any rewards for I Broke Sepolia NFT holder?
Nothing at the moment for any of the NFTs. So the next chunk of rewards we'll be distributing will be for the OG/Mythic Role in Discord. We've announced the requirements for and clarified some of the qualifying edge cases. So that'll be the next reward system from a community, people especially participating in testnet perspective. Nothing planned right now for NFT holders. We are looking at doing some stuff with the upcoming new incentives program, but what that looks like and what that amounts to is still TBD. So for now, NFTs are still cosmetic, but we are looking at interesting stuff to do with them.
And isn't having an NFT as cool as the I Broke Sepolia a reward in itself?
I think so. One Hemi community member asks, what are the staking rewards for 2 and 4 year lockups?
So we'll be announcing the full staking economics soon. But specifically for 2 and 4 year, the way the mechanics work is essentially 2 year are getting 2 times the staking weight, or sorry, 4 times the staking weight as the 6-month position, and 4-year are getting 2 times the staking weight of the 2-year position, or 8 times the staking weight of the 6-month position. So that means if you would have earned, say, 1 token in a month with a 6-month position, you would earn 4 tokens that month with the 2-year position, or the equivalent 8x that 8 tokens in that month for having the 4-year position. It's a little more complicated because they all decay over time. So the way it works on a technical level is it works on 6-day epochs, and that's not 6 calendar days. It's based on 365.25 days in a year to account for leap year. So basically, every 6 days, your total staking weight, which is also your governance weight, the two are the same thing, reduces by 6 days. So, for example, someone with a 30-day position, for the first 6-day period, they have the equivalent multiplier that a 30-day position gets them. And after 6 days, they have the equivalent multiplier of a 24-day position, and so on and so forth. And so for 2 and 4-year, that math I gave would be the exact math for the first week of reward distributions. And then the second week, or the second 6-day period, then the 4-year would decrease to 4 years minus 6 days. Same with the 2-year, same with the 6-month. So those multipliers apply generally, but since they do decay over time, and the 6-month obviously ends after 6 months, the 2 and 4 years keep going. It ends up a little different based on future reward curves in year 2, 3, 4. But that's the overall math and mechanics for how those positions would compare to the 6-month position.
All right. Any VBK updates?
Yep, we're still working on the tech side to make the claims there work. So hoping to have that done within the next week or so, and then we'll probably deploy a different claim checker URL for those addresses because it is a different technical mechanic. So more details coming soon. Right now, the main blocker is just working through the tech side of the claims. We have to convert the VBK address representation to an Ethereum address representation. It's a little more complex than that, but basically you have to sign a message with the VBK key to then allow us to extract a public key in EVM format to then use for the claim process. So just working on the tech side, and we'll announce the details on that and the actual claim checker in the relatively near future.
Now, for Hemi mainnet points season 2, if we currently have liquidity in Hemi staking or on other platforms like Spectra, will we receive points retroactively, or will we have to bring our liquidity back until the next announcement?
Super high level, we're still working on finalizing what season 2 is going to look like, and it's actually probably going to be some subcomponents of a sort of a stopgap solution with essentially the same thing as season 1, but we'll announce the exact details. We are trying to simplify it a bit, and then that's going to transition into a new, more robust program partway through season 2. And so we'll announce details on that soon. In a general sense, if you have liquidity deployed on Hemi now that you're earning for in season 1, most of those people will receive incentives in season 2, but we'll announce details because we are simplifying it a little bit. So some protocols and some pools may be removed, but we should have details on that in the next day or two.
All right, moving forward to the token section of the questions. Will more liquidity come to the BSC chain?
Potentially. The main focus right now is getting more liquidity, I'd say, on the Hemi side. So hopefully we'll have some updates there in the near future. But in general, we're looking for more liquidity anywhere the Hemi token exists and people are interacting with it. So possibly yes, but right now the focus is more on the Hemi chain liquidity side because that's more of the obviously long-term place where the token is going to be circulating, used, staked, etc. Where having more liquidity makes sense.
All right, and are there any plans for a buyback or burn program for Hemi tokens?
Nothing at the moment. So all of the Hemi tokenomics and future uses of the Hemi token are all designed around doing things that increase value for the ecosystem. So there will be components in some of those that, due to a game theory reason, require tokens in some situations to be burnt. But there's not, at the moment, any sort of overall plan for any other sort of, team-driven burn system or anything like that. all of the utility of the Hemi token, all of the essentially economic value that the Hemi token contributes to adding to the ecosystem could be through use cases of the Hemi token and decentralizing the protocol. So, and again, to list some of the items on there, that's participating as a sequencer, batch, or proposer in the future, or we combine those two and call them a publisher, participating in BitVM covenant emulation for creating hBitVM vaults, participating in providing liquidity for the Bitcoin tunnel system and possibly other liquidity wrappers around the ETH tunnel system in the future, staking Hemi tokens to participate in governance, staking Hemi tokens at some point in the further future to participate in some of the chain builder technical components like running the shared sequencer, shared DA system. So that's where the Hemi token circulates in the ecosystem and creates value versus trying to do some sort of a buy and burn type system. So again, some of those may need burn components for technical reasons, but that's more of a game theory incentive alignment versus overall economic strategy.
All right. Now we have some engineering questions. One intrepid member of our community asks, what are the components of the Hemi network?
Pre or post V2 refactor. Super high level, so you have the opgeth and opnode daemons, which basically go together to create sort of the minimal version of a Hemi node. So that's pulling Hemi L2 data that's published to Ethereum blobs for DA purposes, and then validating that and feeding that into opgeth to construct the EVM or HVM view of the current Hemi chain. And you have BFG, or the Bitcoin Finality Governor, which basically looks at Bitcoin state, looks at Hemi state, and calculates Bitcoin finality statistics. So telling you, hey, this block or this keystone has achieved Bitcoin finality, or it's 4 Bitcoin blocks from Bitcoin finality, assuming no competing publication. So that acts as more of a Bitcoin finality security metrics calculation system. Then you have TBC, which is tiny Bitcoin. That's the Bitcoin daemon that's embedded in opgeth. So that's what allows HVM to function. So on Hemi, when you write a smart contract that does an HVM call, under the hood, that's getting routed to TBC, and TBC's index view of Bitcoin state. There's actually 2 versions of TBC running inside of opgeth. So you have the lightweight or header-only mode TBC that tracks Bitcoin consensus state known by Hemi through Bitcoin attributes deposited transactions that occur in the Hemi chain itself. And then you have the full node TBC instance that runs next to the lightweight TBC instance and indexes Bitcoin state to what's known by the lightweight state minus 2 Bitcoin blocks. And so in that version of TBC directly pairs with the Bitcoin network. So you have sort of this dual TBC setup running inside of opgeth. And then with the refactor, you also have TBC that can run in a independent mode that basically still pairs with Bitcoin, still indexes data, but it's not driven by opgeth and the Bitcoin view of the lightweight TBC state. And that can be used in the new refactor for getting pop miner data, and it's also used for indexing keystone data for BFG. And then there's other components for actually doing the publication of DA and state root data to Ethereum. So that's op batch or op proposer. And then you, of course, have the pop miner that you can run independently and connect to our infrastructure, or you could run as part of the overall Hemi network stack. And then in the future, that's going to eventually evolve to where opnode is also has a sequencing mode. So you'll be able to stake Hemi tokens in the VE Hemi staking system and then opt into being a sequencer. And then your opnode instance, you'd configure it, be aware of that stake position and produce blocks on the network. And then there's also going to be additional components for the coordination basically around building the transaction graph of Bitcoin transactions for BitVM vaults. So that'll be a separate daemon or system of daemons that run independently, but also, of course, look at data on Hemi, look at the Bitcoin tunnel contract, see what Bitcoin vaults to construct out of that, and then relay data on chain once they do successful covenant emulation, or as an operator once they interact with the Bitcoin vault in a certain way, like facilitating a withdrawal by fronting liquidity on Bitcoin itself, submitting that proof back on chain. But those are future components of the Hemi stack that are outside of sort of what's running now and what will be running after the V2 release.
An all-encompassing overhead breakdown there. That was beautiful. We have another engineering question. Who should be running a pop miner?
This is not a great answer, but anyone who wants to. So if you haven't done pop mining yet, I'd probably wait until we get the updated pop payout algorithm live, just so you're starting off with that new system and understanding that. But you're also, of course, free to start now. It pretty much comes down to economics and analyzing the Bitcoin fees that you're paying to do pop mining versus the rewards that are paid out for doing pop mining successfully. And so that calculation is going to change with the new pop points or pop payout algorithm update. But basically, anyone who is willing to get a little bit dirty, understand the underlying economics, and basically configure their pop miner, or even in a lot of cases, modify their pop miner to try to optimize profitability around that fee to Hemi token payout ratio.
I've got a different answer there. I'm going to say you should be running a pop miner. If the only people who should be running a pop miner, you have to be comfortable running a command line tool that on a either Linux or BSD server where it can run more or less full-time ish in a way that you're comfortable with its security, where it will have access to some Bitcoin funds that it can and will spend on its own. So, there's a certain amount of familiarity with those kind of tools and comfort with the security that goes along with it. So if you've only ever worked in a, more sort of point and clicking environment, you're going to have, it might not be for you. If it's the first time you're using a Bitcoin wallet, might be an expensive way to learn, expensive or dangerous way to learn. But if you are comfortable with those kind of things, and that's the kind of thing you're happy with, it's a very lightweight daemon that doesn't require much. So, it's a good one. The word mining is a lot scarier than it really warrants here. So that's the one caveat that, you're going to be running this on, it's a command line tool that it's got to sit there and it's got to be secure. If anyone else can get into your thing, then what the hot funds that are there, they're gone. It's easy. So you got to be careful there. Not to scary.
Yeah, that's very helpful.
Said for any crypto ecosystem tool, right? Keep your stuff secure. Sorry, Max, didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
Oh, all good. I think my internet has a little bit of a lag on this side. But yeah, the extra context John gave super helpful. If you are looking to get started, as always, the recommendation is, start with a very small amount, test it out, see how it goes, get your setup figured out. You don't need to necessarily run it on a machine that's running 24/7 if you just want to try it out and pop mine for a bit. But obviously, if you want to be doing it long term and tweak out the algorithm for choosing when to pop mine and which keystones to pop mine versus estimations of Bitcoin fees, or trying to sort of quote unquote game the Bitcoin fee market, or optimize fee payments around transaction inclusion and blocks, stuff like that, then if you're putting in that work, you definitely want to be running it in a 24/7 environment. And like John said, it is super lightweight, so you can run it on Raspberry Pi, that sort of equivalent system, or if you have an extra old laptop laying around or whatever, those are great machines for running the pop miner. It's super lightweight. Again, like John said, mining usually connotes a lot of a powerful GPU or a ASIC, and that's not the case with pop mining. All you're doing is basically packaging up information about the Hemi chain's current state and then publishing it to Bitcoin as sort of a bit reductionist, but a time stamping mechanism. And so doing that process is all computationally very lightweight. What you're expending is actually Bitcoin that you're using to pay the fees for the Bitcoin transactions that you publish that contain that Hemi data in them. And also a quick note on the pop mining side, in addition to the upcoming update to the pop payout algorithm, which should be going live before the end of next week, as we mentioned earlier, looking further out into the future with hBitVM, there's actually going to be a new type of pop mining that's introduced. And so it's all going to be sort of the same mechanic in the sense that you're taking some data and you're packaging it in a Bitcoin transaction and publishing it. But what we're adding is actually a pop publication system of Ethereum validator and consensus information. And so That is basically the underlying data publishing mechanic that lets us leverage Ethereum security for securing ZK proofs against Ethereum state forgeability. And so that will have slightly different payout mechanics. So right now, the current pop payout algorithm is essentially publishing, it's a little more than this, but essentially publishing Hemi blockchain headers to Bitcoin. And then those are used for consensus, fork resolution, Bitcoin finality. But in the future, that second track of data publication will be publishing much larger pieces of data, and there won't be the need for the protocol to incentivize redundancy, and also the time requirements for how quickly that data gets published are also going to go down. So the payout algorithm for that specific type of publication will change. So there will still be the existing pop publication, pop payout system, post the upcoming pop payouts algorithm update for publishing Hemi data to Bitcoin, but this new track for publishing Ethereum data to Bitcoin will be introduced and have different economics, different payouts, different time requirements. And so obviously we'll announce more details as we get closer to that, and also in the upcoming, hopefully getting out very soon, the hBitVM white paper. But just be aware that will be in addition to the overall, duties and responsibilities of somebody doing pop mining, but you will be able to choose to do just one of those or both of those. So you can keep doing, once we introduce that new publication system, you can keep doing regular pop mining with the soon to be released updated payout algorithm, and or you could also do this Ethereum data publication that operates economically very differently. So same underlying mechanic, take data, publish into Bitcoin, but different economics, redundancy needs, and all that feeds into different ways of payout, different ways of selecting, which users are going to publish what information. There may be an additional mechanic around that to help coordinate and reduce waste, because it is a lot of data getting published and it only needs to be published once. So more details coming there, but just as if you're interested in pop mining, be aware that that's also on the horizon.
All right. Forging ahead in engineering questions, what parts of the Hemi codebase and infrastructure have been audited, and how often does Hemi plan to re-audit?
Good question. So pretty much everything on the smart contract side has been audited, minus maybe like an NFT contract or something that's very simple and no need for an audit. But everything important, all of the tunnel system contracts, all of the contracts related to settlement on the Ethereum side, any other like the VE Hemi contract for staking, the Merkle-Box contract. So all of that's been audited. As for the code base, we did an initial audit of the opgeth and optimism repos a while ago, right around the time of mainnet launch. I forget the exact timing. I think it was a bit before. And we're putting together a program for more frequent audits of major releases of those code bases as well. And on the smart contract side, as far as audit frequency, pretty much just depends on when there's a update to the contracts that warrants a re-audit. So we are working on a update to the Bitcoin tunnel system, so that will involve a re-audit of that code base at that point in time before that's launched and upgraded, and also some updates, obviously, on the Ethereum settlement side once we have ZK provability. So all those changes will be audited, but some of that is going to use existing already audited code from other projects, plus a mix of our own additions for Hemi-specific stuff. So we would only be auditing the scope of those contracts that have changed since the third-party audits over those contracts.
Okay. With the recent NPM supply chain attack, what is Hemi doing to ensure that they are not affected by supply chain attacks, especially those targeting crypto?
Good question. So a lot of these sorts of things can be avoided with best practices. It's not perfect, especially the JavaScript code supply chain is notorious for compromises. So there's a lot of standard things we do, making sure that dependencies are pinned to certain versions, not doing production deployments with bleeding edge code, things of that nature. So I won't go exhaustively into that. And there's people on the team, if anyone else wants to chime in on some of the things we're doing on that side, but essentially industry standard protections against that. We do scan stuff with tools. We have automated alerts for packages we are using that have any sort of CVE filed against them with any sort of significant vulnerability that we address and triage. There's a lot of noise in those tools. So a lot of times you have a dependency of a dependency of a dependency that has, one weird vulnerability for something that's totally unrelated to your environment. And so, you know, those tools do generate a lot of noise, but we do have those tools active and review the stuff that they send to us. Things like GitHub Dependabot. There's some automatic scanning tools or Docker images that we publish. So mostly industry standard stuff, and then making sure that production deployments are, when they're done based on dependencies that we've looked into. Everyone knows what they are, and they're appropriately pinned to versions considered stable and secure.
And I've got one other thing to add to that. That you know, there's a. I'm not trying to, at least not this time. I'm not trying to rag on the Node.js ecosystem, but there is definitely a tendency in some programming communities, we'll say, to constantly use to import dependencies like there's no tomorrow. And Python many years ago had this thing where they said that Python was supposed to be a language with batteries included, meaning you could do things with the standard library. And we do try to when we review code and when definitely on the Go side, but I know our JavaScript guys are good too. We don't try to just import every damn package you can think of. We actually, if we're importing something, we try to at least have there be some reason for it, and not something that we could have trivially done with a couple lines of code ourselves. And that, it's not perfect, but anything you can do to lower your, exposure is good. You shouldn't be just install every goddamn thing you can think of and, hope for the best. You try to limit it. You only import things that you need. You stick with, when possible, sticking with larger or more well-known packages certainly would not have helped with this, because we can see those can be attacked too, but not importing things you don't need is a surprisingly simple sounding but frequently missing in the industry. And the industry not even being crypto, being the entire internet. It's a simple but important one that more people ignore than you think.
Truer words have not been spoken, and glad to see that you're keeping the streak alive there. Next question. Is the Hemi documentation being maintained? Many pages seem to be outdated.
It is being maintained, but there's definitely some updates we need to make to it. So that's part of the post-TGE as the dust settles cleanup. So we will be making a lot of updates on the docs in the coming weeks. So yes, they're being maintained, but B, there is definitely some old stuff in there that needs to be either updated or replaced with new post-TGE information. Anything related to the token contract itself, though, all of that is up to date, and you can rely on all of the Hemi token contracts, information about bridges, whatever's up there, all of that's being maintained actively. But some of the other pages definitely do need to be updated.
And if you see something on docs.hemi that needs updating that you can update, feel free to contribute. Docs are one of the best ways to contribute to an open source project is documentation. There are almost no open source projects out there that don't, have trouble keeping docs up to date, because hackers want to hack on code. And if you're a little less technical, or technical but not sure how to get your feet wet, contribute to the docs. We would absolutely love it. It's a great place to throw something in there. Good place to contribute. Good starter place to contribute. There's nothing wrong with, thinking, oh, I really want to get deep into code or something, but I'm not sure how. Let me contribute to the docs first. You'll learn something, and you'll learn something while seeing some actual output from it. And yeah, so please contribute. The docs are there. They need love. We love them, but you should love them too.
And also, mechanically, Joshua just posted the link to the docs repository. So it may not be obvious just looking at the doc site, but behind the scenes, it's using Gitbook, which pulls everything from GitHub. And so if you want to make or propose a change to the documentation, you can do it as a PR in that GitHub repo. And then if that's merged in, then the doc site automatically updates.
All right, moving out of engineering questions, unless we get a few others from the community while we're going through these. OG roll. When OG roll?
So it should be, we originally announced 30 days from, I believe, the original claim process last 2 Fridays ago. So that'd be roughly 3 weeks from now. So there are still some more mechanical things that need to be done to get the, check all the qualifications, assign the roles. There's probably going to be a claim process to actually something interactive in Discord you have to do to claim it, and then it'll check that you have the requirements and issue you the role. So there's some tech components we got to finish building out for that, but it should be within the next 3 weeks.
And then in that same vein, when OG role checker, Max, I can answer this one. You guys, you don't need a checker for the OG role, all right? Just wait 3 weeks and you'll get the role. You don't need a checker, okay? You'll see when you get the role. Don't worry about that. So probably not happening. Next question. When will OG rewards be distributed?
That will be shortly after the OG role is actually distributed. So it'll be whatever the distribution/claim process for the OG role is. We'll have, I'm going to estimate something like a week or so after that to handle any edge cases and people who think they should have gotten it but didn't. So we can look into those. And if they did correctly meet the qualifications, we can assign them the role. So it'll probably be roughly 3 weeks from now. We'll have a process for claiming the OG role, then about a week to 10 days, something like that, for any edge cases to get solved to make sure we have the final list. And then after that, we would go through the claim, some sort of a claim distribution process.
All right. Now, here's a question. Will OG rewards be vested as incentive rewards?
TBD, there will definitely be a liquid portion. Whether it's all liquid or there's some staking is still TBD, and we'll announce details on that probably in the next 2 weeks.
All right. Will Deimos mainnet be applied to the OG reward?
I believe Deimos is required to qualify for the OG reward, yes. If that is one of the, you have to have 3 of the 5 qualifying, have to qualify for 3 of the 5 factors. And so if you
Yeah.
qualify for other factors that don't include the Deimos verification, then no. But most users who are qualifying for it from their activity on Discord and on-chain back from the testnet days, if those are the requirements that you're going for, that would require Deimos verification.
All right. Well, we have charged through all of the community questions, and we have received amazing updates on Hemi's engineering state, on the state of the documentation updates that will be coming, as well as the token rewards that you guys can expect to come as we roll the platform out. Is there anything else that we didn't cover that you guys wanted to mention now that we've got you all here?
I think that covers pretty much everything. I'll just give one final kind of macro update, basically same thing I did at the beginning, but since some people may have joined since we gave that at the very beginning of Midweek with Max. If you're waiting on Spectra points, those should be, if you didn't receive any points at all, you should be receiving your Spectra claim by the end of the day. If you did receive some points, but you're getting additional points for the Spectra recalculation that includes the October tokens, those will come out sometime later this week because there's a technical limitation with the claim checker UI for people who already have claims in one claim group, not being able to handle multiple claim groups. So we're working on a solution for that, and we'll announce that when it's ready. For anyone who had pop points that they earned prior to the original claim process, we're going to deploy a smart contract that'll let you turn in, if you want to, your VE Hemi position or liquid tokens representing the locked portion of the tokens you got for pop points. So that's coming soon. Should have details on that before the end of the week as well. And then for a few users affected by Dodo, same answer as Spectra. If you didn't get any coins in the original claim or any tokens, then you should be added to the claim group by end of day today, to a new claim group rather. If you did already have other tokens, you'll be part of that second batch of Spectra address fixes that will go up probably later this week once we resolve the UI limitation there for multiple claim groups. And if you were involved in the node sale, you should have received Hemi tokens in the original claim process, and you should have received basically points equivalent to the purchase price of your nodes after discounts, counted as TVL for 200 days in the mainnet points program at a 6x multiplier. If you did not receive tokens in the claim process for your node sale participation, reach out with a ticket and we'll look into it. But those should have been distributed. So if you don't see those, let us know and we'll take a look.
Well, all right, we really hit a momentous occasion with Hemi's TGE successfully rolling through, and we have everyone here in the community to thank for that. So thank you guys for your amazing support. This is going to wrap this section of Midweek with Max. I'd like to thank also our engineers that poured their hearts and souls into making Hemi what it is today and continuing to build the platform out to the future of Bitcoin integrated DeFi. I'd like to turn that over back to Max for some closing thoughts, and thanks again, everyone.
Awesome. Thanks everyone for joining us. A lot of stuff coming out for finalizing the original testnet mainnet season points distribution or token distribution based on points in the next couple days. So looking to get all that closed out hopefully by the end of the week. Veriblock stuff's still moving, so we'll announce some updates on that side, just working through some tech details there. And besides from that, stay tuned for information on the Hemi staking system and the incentives for that. Later, updates on governance and the initial form that that's going to take. And looking a little further into the future, continue to work towards hBitVM. And we will see everybody next week.
Thanks, you guys. Have a wonderful night.
Thanks, y'all.